Imagine you're standing in the meat section of a supermarket. You see beef, chicken, lamb, fish. Everything looks completely normal. Now imagine one more shelf: fresh wolf meat, tiger steaks, lion burgers, or roasted eagle. Suddenly, the supermarket feels completely different. Most people wouldn't even consider buying them. Some would feel uncomfortable. Others would ask a different question: can people even eat those animals? The surprising answer is yes. Most predators are edible when prepared properly. So if humans can eat wolves, lions, bears, and other predators, why did almost every civilization choose cows, sheep, goats, and chickens instead? Was it religion, culture, fear? Or was there a hidden reason our ancestors discovered thousands of years before science could explain it? What's remarkable is that people living on different continents, separated by oceans, mountains, and thousands of years, made almost exactly the same decision without speaking to one another. They built farms around plant-eating animals, not meat-eating ones. That kind of pattern doesn't happen by chance. It suggests nature itself may have been quietly guiding human choices. And once you understand why, you'll never look at your dinner the same way again. Travel back 50,000 years. There are no supermarkets, no farms, no refrigerators, only survival. A small hunting group moves silently across an open grassland. In the distance, a herd of deer grazes peacefully. Farther away, hidden among the trees, a pack of wolves watches the very same herd. You carry one spear. One mistake could cost your life. Which animal do you hunt? Almost everyone chooses the deer, not because they've studied biology, but because it simply feels like the smarter choice. For our ancestors, every hunt was an investment. A deer could feed an entire family. Its hide became clothing. Its bones became tools. Its tendons became rope. And where there was one deer, there were usually many more nearby. A wolf offered something completely different. It lived in much smaller numbers. It traveled long distances. It was fast, intelligent, and fully capable of fighting back. Even a small bite could become infected, ending the hunt before it truly began. Generation after generation, ancient hunters remembered which animals brought food home and which brought injuries. Without realizing it, they were collecting data, not with notebooks, but with experience. Those lessons slowly became traditions, and those traditions eventually shaped human civilization itself. But this creates another mystery. Humans hunted mammoths. They hunted giant bison. They even faced dangerous bears when survival demanded it. So danger alone cannot explain why predators almost never became everyday food. The real answer begins with something far older than humanity itself: the flow of energy through nature. At first, the answer seems simple. Predators are dangerous, but danger isn't the real reason. After all, our ancestors hunted mammoths that weighed several tons. They challenged wild boars with razor-sharp tusks. They even fought giant bears when survival depended on it. If humans were willing to face those animals, why avoid wolves, lions, and other predators? The answer begins with something almost invisible: sunlight. Every day, the sun pours an incredible amount of energy onto Earth. Plants are the first to capture it. Through photosynthesis, they transform sunlight into leaves, grass, fruits, and seeds. Those plants become food for herbivores. Deer graze across open fields. Zebras feed on endless grasslands. Buffalo spend their days turning plants into muscle and fat. But the story doesn't end there. Lions hunt zebras. Wolves hunt deer. Tigers hunt wild boar. Every predator depends on animals that already depend on plants. This creates a chain, a food chain. But here's the part most people never think about. Every time energy moves from one level of the food chain to the next, most of it disappears, not because nature wastes it, but because life is expensive. Every heartbeat, every breath, every step, every hunt consumes energy. A deer spends energy running. A wolf spends even more energy chasing that deer. By the time the wolf finally catches its prey, only a small fraction of the original sunlight remains stored inside its body. Imagine filling a bucket with water, now pour away 90%. Repeat that process again and again. Eventually, almost nothing is left. Nature works in a surprisingly similar way. Scientists call this the 10% rule. On average, only about 10% of the energy stored in one level becomes available to the next. That means thousands of kilograms of grass may support only a handful of deer. Those deer can support only a few wolves. Suddenly, the landscape begins to make sense. Across a wide valley, you might see hundreds of grazing animals, but only a small pack of predators. Not because predators are weak, because nature simply cannot afford many of them. Ancient hunters never studied ecology. They didn't know the words energy transfer. They didn't need to. They observed the results. One day searching for wolves could end with empty hands. One afternoon following a herd could feed an entire family. Without realizing it, humans learned one of nature's oldest economic rules. If you want the greatest reward, hunt where the energy is most abundant. And that almost always meant hunting plant-eating animals. But even this invisible energy system wasn't the only reason predators stayed off the menu. Another danger was hiding where no one could see it, inside the meat itself. Imagine the hunt is finally over. After hours of tracking, you've managed to kill a wolf. The fire is burning. Your family is waiting. It feels like the hard part is finished. But what if the greatest danger isn't the hunt? It's the meal itself. Unlike a deer, a predator carries the history of everything it has ever eaten. Throughout its life, a wolf hunts rabbits, deer, wild boar, and sometimes even sick or injured animals. Each prey carries its own bacteria, parasites, viruses, and microscopic organisms. Most never survive inside the predator, but some do, with every successful hunt. The predator doesn't just collect food, it may also collect invisible passengers. Now imagine humans eating that predator. Without realizing it, they may also consume some of those same organisms. Thousands of years ago, people had never heard the words bacteria, parasite, or infection. There were no microscopes, no laboratories, no doctors explaining foodborne diseases. Yet ancient people noticed something important. Some meals seemed far more likely to make people sick than others. One hunter developed a terrible fever. Another suffered violent stomach pain. Sometimes, an entire family became ill after sharing the same animal. No one understood the science, but they remembered the outcome. Experience became knowledge, knowledge became tradition. A village elder might simply say, "Don't eat that animal." The explanation disappeared with time, but the warning survived. Modern science now shows that many wild predators are indeed more likely to carry parasites than grazing animals. For example, wild bears can carry trichinella, a microscopic parasite capable of infecting humans if the meat isn't cooked thoroughly. Large carnivores may also accumulate higher levels of certain environmental toxins because they feed on many other animals throughout their lives. This doesn't mean predator meat is poisonous. It isn't. People around the world have safely eaten bears, sharks, crocodiles, and many other predators. The key difference is preparation. Proper cooking greatly reduces many biological risks. But for ancient hunters, There were no food thermometers, no medical knowledge, no guarantee that cooking would eliminate unseen dangers. When choosing between two animals, one generally offered fewer unknown risks, the other demanded far greater caution over thousands of generations. Those repeated experiences quietly shaped human habits, yet even if every parasite suddenly disappeared, even if predator meat became completely safe, one enormous problem would still remain, a problem that changed the course of civilization itself. Because feeding a predator requires feeding everything below it first. Imagine two villages, separated by only a few miles. Both have fertile land, both have fresh water, and both want one thing: a reliable source of food. The first village chooses cattle. Every morning, the animals walk into the fields and quietly eat grass. Something humans can't digest is slowly transformed into meat, milk, leather, and eventually, food for an entire community. The second village makes a very different decision. Instead of cows, they decide to raise wolves. At first, it sounds exciting. Strong animals, excellent hunters, powerful enough to defend themselves. But within days, a serious problem appears. The wolves don't eat grass, they refuse grains, they ignore vegetables. Every single wolf demands meat, lots of it. Now the villagers face an impossible calculation. Before feeding one wolf, they must first raise sheep, or goats, or deer. Those animals must also be fed every single day. Suddenly, the wolves aren't producing food, they're consuming the food that could have fed people instead. The village is working twice as hard to produce far less. Nature has been making this calculation for hundreds of millions of years. Every step higher in the food chain requires dramatically more land, more water, more prey, more time, and more energy. That's why ecosystems always contain far fewer predators than herbivores. A single pride of lions may need thousands of grazing animals spread across enormous territories. A pack of wolves survives only because countless deer, elk, and smaller animals exist beneath them. Predators are not inefficient hunters, they're expensive animals. And ancient humans slowly realize something remarkable. If you want to feed one family, you hunt an herbivore. If you want to feed an entire village, you raise herbivores. This simple idea quietly changed human history. As farming spread across the world, fields replaced forests, pastures replaced hunting grounds. People began domesticating animals that could survive on plants humans couldn't eat. Cows transformed grass into beef and milk. Goats survived in rocky mountains where crops failed. Sheep provided both food and warm wool. Chickens turned seeds, insects, and kitchen scraps into eggs almost every day. These weren't the strongest animals, they were the most efficient. Entire civilizations were built around this invisible advantage. Cities grew larger, populations increased, trade expanded. Not because humans found the tastiest animals, but because they discovered the smartest investment. Even today, modern technology hasn't changed this ancient rule. Machines have become more powerful, farms have become more advanced, but no farmer raises lions to produce affordable meat. No ranch fills its fields with wolves because the mathematics of nature has never changed, and that's why the animals filling our farms today are almost the same ones our ancestors chose thousands of years ago. But one final question still remains. If predators are such poor food animals, why do some cultures still hunt and eat them? The answer has everything to do with where people lived. If predators were such an inefficient source of food, why do we know that some people still hunted bears caught sharks, or even ate crocodiles? The answer is surprisingly simple. People didn't always choose their food. Sometimes their environment chose it for them. Imagine living in the frozen Arctic. There are no forests, no fields of wheat, no grazing cattle for much of the year. The ground is locked beneath ice and snow. In places like these, communities survived by hunting seals, fish, whales, and occasionally polar bears. Not because predator meat was ideal, but because it was available. Now imagine living beside a tropical river. Crocodiles share the water, fish are abundant, large grazing animals may be rare. Again, people adapted to whatever nature provided. The same was true along many coastlines. Sharks were sometimes caught, not because they were preferred, but because the sea offered different opportunities than the grasslands. This reveals one of humanity's greatest strengths. We are not specialists. We are adapters. Humans can survive in deserts, frozen tundras, dense jungles, and isolated islands because we learn to use whatever resources exist around us. Culture often appears to decide what people eat, but in reality, nature usually makes the first decision. Culture simply preserves it. When farming eventually replaced hunting, humanity carried those ancient lessons forward. We domesticated animals that multiplied quickly, ate inexpensive food, and returned far more energy than they consumed. Those choices transformed small villages into powerful civilizations. Thousands of years later, walk through almost any supermarket in the world. You'll see beef, chicken, lamb, goat, pork, fish. The same types of animals our ancestors gradually learned were the smartest investment. You probably won't find wolf steaks, tiger burgers, or lion farms. Not because humans can't eat predators, but because nature has always made herbivores the better bargain. Every meal begins with sunlight. Plants capture its energy. Herbivores store that energy. Humans harvest it. The closer an animal is to the beginning of that chain, the more efficiently it can feed us. The higher it climbs, the more expensive every bite becomes. So the real mystery was never, can humans eat predators? The answer has always been yes. The real question was, why would they when nature offers something far better? Long before economics, long before agriculture, and long before modern science, nature had already solved that problem. Our ancestors simply learned to follow its rules, and perhaps that's the strangest part of all. The next time you sit down for dinner, look beyond your plate, because you're not just eating food, you're looking at millions of years of evolution, an invisible flow of energy, and one of the oldest survival strategies ever written, not by humans, but by nature itself. If this documentary changed the way you think about something as ordinary as food, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more documentaries exploring the hidden rules of nature, human evolution, ancient civilizations, and the forgotten stories that shaped our world. And before you go, tell us in the comments, if you had the chance to safely taste one predator, which one would you choose, and why? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next journey into history.